So I will always remember a talk that I had with my sensei, Sensei Patrick Cassidy. We had a lot of talks. We would meet often to discuss things, and he would share a lot of things and point out a lot of things. And in one of the talks, we were talking about Aikido, and he said to me that the number one priority in Aikido is ukemi, the ability to receive, then it's weapons, and then it's technique. And obviously I do respect and understand that, that was in the middle of a talk and it was specifically designed, probably it was designed for me to give a pointer. It doesn't mean it's a rule, and I never heard him repeat that again. But nevertheless, it stuck with me very deeply. I actually believe it's very true, and I actually respect that thought ever since. It's interesting that in Aikido, oftentimes the role of an uke can be neglected. As I've spoken in some previous videos, oftentimes the role of uke is the role of the resistor. I resist, and if you're not able to force the technique on me, then it doesn't work. And that's not really being an uke, that's not being a receiver, that's something else. And I've spoken about that more deeply in the Dark Side of Aikido video, so we're not going to go there right now. Even myself, I remember when I started Aikido, and that was quite a while ago, I was even younger than now, and in the first training I was a bit confused. I was looking like, okay, so one guy does the technique and practices, and the other guy is losing and just waiting for his turn, and then he trains and he wins and learns, and then the other guy just waits for his turn. So it looked like, we're training only 50% of the time, 50% of the other time just being this passive waiter for your turn, which is not true. It's just an immature way of looking at it. Actually, being an uke is a very important part, and it actually can help discover, open up, and develop a lot of great things. So how to do that can be more of a tricky question. So first of all, being a good uke is something alongside of being at the right place at the right time. And that's kind of the golden middle, which is a bit hard to find sometimes. So being a good uke, sometimes when you say you're being a good uke, can also be said in a sarcastic way. And what I mean by that, if you're trying to be too much of a good uke, then you're falling instead of the person throwing you, you're falling before the throw actually happens, or you're moving before the person even does something to you. That's being, sarcastically a good uke. That's not what we're looking for. When you train with a beginner, it might be a good point to do that, because if the person is really confused, really lost, then it's good to guide the person and to move for him so that he would kind of feel, okay, where he needs to go. But that's for the first few times. And when he gets the hang of it, then you start to become more present, then you start to become more with. You give some energy so that the person would feel you, so that he would need to do the technique. So you shouldn't be spoon-feeding him all the time, because then he's going to move on to the next person who's not going to do the technique for him, and he's going to get lost. So that kind of wanting to be the good uke can actually be damaging, because you're not giving the chance for the person to learn properly the technique. On the opposite side, being resistant is also not what we're looking for. I made a whole video about that, as I said, the dark side of Aikido. But to sum it up, being hardcore resistor is oftentimes connected to believing that you know perfectly how the technique should be done. But our understanding of how the technique should be done evolves all the time. The way you understood your techniques 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, it's different than today. But if you believed 5 years ago that you know it perfectly, you were already wrong. Same way you are wrong today. We need to give the space for the other person to explore the technique. We need to have the humility of understanding that the person, that I might mislead the person by resisting too much, by allowing him to do only the things which I believe to be true. So that's not what we're looking for either, and that doesn't develop good life qualities either. But that kind of golden middle is more connected to being present, alive, and being connected and being with. So I don't want to fall instead of the person, and I don't want to resist. So what's in between that is being with the person, giving a bit of a resistance, but which is not really a resistance, it's more of a connection, so that when the person moves, he feels that he's moving you, and you feel where he's moving. You're not moving ahead, but you're being with. And even if the person does something else, you're able to adapt to it. And also one more good way to point out that you're being a proper uke is that if the other person would stop the technique, would you be able to directly come back and reverse the technique? Meaning you have to have a good ground, you need to have a good balance, you need to be receptive and fluid. Which is great because these qualities are very important for daily life too. That's something you want to bring back off the mat. If you're receptive, if you're sensitive, if you're alive, present, you're being at the right place at the right time, that's things we want in our daily life too. And if we practice them on the mat, we will become better people off the mat too, which I think is the whole point of Aikido in the end, or in the beginning. There's some practical points too to being a good uke on a technical level, and I'm planning to make a whole video about that on the mat with our gis, with the partner, etc., and to point out direct things. But also the second part of the video that I wanted to look at is more related to the request, which I mentioned in the beginning, how to be a good uke in a jiwaza, in a freestyle. Because in a technique, to be a good uke is already hard, but if you learn it, you can kind of know where it's going. You can kind of, sometimes you can even fake it a bit and kind of master it. But in a jiwaza, in a freestyle, you don't know what's going to happen exactly, and it's so much harder to be a good uke. Now again, our desire to be a good uke can be too much, and in a jiwaza, in a freestyle, you know, if you're going with a partner and you want to be a good uke for him and you start falling for him without him throwing, again, he's not going to learn anything. At the same time, there is a very important point to mention before we continue, and there's a very good saying by one of the Aikido senseis mentioned before: it should never be uke's fault. So as a nage, it's so easy to say, okay, you're doing it wrong, you're attacking me wrong, you're falling too quickly, etc. And obviously, it doesn't mean that everyone is right and the uke does whatever and that's fine. There's a certain line where you have to point it out. But at the same time, if the person is resisting, in my experience, it's important to learn to deal with that too. To learn to deal with a person who falls too quickly. To learn to deal with a person who attacks too strongly. And then as we deal with it, then we can say, okay, look, you see, I did it, but now please, can you move slower? Can you please resist less? Can you please stay with me longer before I throw you? So I think adapting, being able to receive whatever uke is an important part of nage too. But at the same time, as I said, it doesn't mean uke can do whatever forever. It's important for uke to develop too, because the better we attack, the more present we are with the person, the more we develop, and the other person is going to have a better time learning too. So coming back to the main point, what does it mean to be a really good uke? The biggest problem in a freestyle practice while being an uke is actually a lot connected with projecting. Because we want to be a good uke, we want to help the person, we start to project. You know, I'm starting to think, oh look, that looks like a throw, so I'm going to fall. And I fall, and the person, maybe he didn't even want it to throw me. Maybe he was just changing a technique in that time. At the same time, if I start to think, okay, probably he just threw me, so probably he's not going to throw me, and I'm going to be with him, and the other person is going into throw, and I'm resisting. First of all, I may get hurt. Second of all, I'm disrupting the flow. So it becomes a mess, and it's all in the head. One of the main points in being a good uke and a freestyle is, first of all, to lose the projections, and what I can also call feel, not think. So that's the big problem, is that when you're sitting on the side and you feel that, okay, probably the sensei is in his demonstration of jiwaza, he's going to call you up, and you're going to be uke, the mind already starts to project, thinking, man, I did it wrong the last time, what should I do, how should I do it? And that means you're not at the moment, you're not present, you're not awake, you're somewhere else, and you're not going to be able to respond, because you're not going to be responding to the moment, to the flow. You're going to be responding to whatever you're thinking about, and that's not the right place at the right time. Being a good uke basically can be put towards being at the right place at the right time. If you're in the mind, you're at the wrong place at the wrong time already. So when you're sitting there and you're expecting that you're going to be called by the sensei, first of all, as soon as you see those thoughts coming up, those projections, first of all, you need to come back to feeling. The more you will feel, the more you will be at the moment. The more you will feel, the more connected you will be, the more the body will be able to respond at the right place at the right time. The mind is not such a big player in being a good uke. So feel free to let go of that. I know it's not easy, but first of all, what you can do, you can start to feel your body. You can start to feel your breathing. You can start breathing deeper, and you can start to come down a bit, but you shouldn't come down in a complete zero either, because if you come down too much, you're not going to have enough energy to give. So it's more about calming down and waking up at the same time, becoming more alive, more present. So you calm down, but you turn on at the same time. And when the instructor calls you, you're not projecting, you're not thinking what's going to happen, you're just being in the moment. You're not thinking, do I look good? Am I going to be doing all right? Did I do a mistake? You're just being in the moment, you're giving energy at that moment as it goes, and trust me, somehow the body knows when to fall, how to fall. When you're present, when you're awake and calm, the body responds by itself. And obviously, it's going to improve. It's going to get better. You know, you might learn high folds in it. You might develop your roles, your connection. But all that will happen only if you lose the projections, if you stay present, if you let go of your worries, let go of your thinking, let go of your ambitions to be a good weekend. But you're just simply in the moment, present, giving clear energy, clear attacks, feeling what you're doing, and then the rest will just simply take care of itself. So I know it might sound like a bit of a simple answer, but trust me, I've experienced that and went through that myself. It really helps, it really works. The less mind you will involve in being a uke, the more better it will happen. And the method for it, one of the methods is simply to feel more, to be more alive, more present, and to not worry, to let go of those thoughts. And as I said, I know it's not easy, but it's also a practice, and it's also a practice which translates to your daily life. So all in all, I hope these tips were useful. Let me know if you have more questions or some comments, you want to share your experience, you want to share your story in the comments. I'm always happy to hear them. I'm always happy to answer questions. All in all, this is Rokas, and I'll see you soon in another video.